The Conestoga Wagon by Model Trailways. To purchase this kit, go to the Model Expo website. And to see the contents of the kit and the completed model, go to YouTube and search for Model Trailways Conestoga Wagon. So, let's get started.
The first thing we're going to do is build the wheels. And what you can see is that we have these aluminum hubs that we'll use for the wheel. Have a pattern that's going to help us set the rim and the spokes where they need to be. This is a building jig. What we do is we put the pattern on top of the jig, put the hub into the jig, and that centers the pattern, glue that down, and then we build the wheel around the hub. This piece of wood has the spokes in it. They'll be cut out and then shaped and assembled. Here are the wheels themselves, the rims. The outer is the back wheel, the smaller is the front wheel. So we'll be putting the wheel together. Well, now we're going to assemble the wheel, and what I've done here is I have taken the building jig and I have put it on top of a roll of masking tape. And then I put the pattern on top of it that I've cut out with the X-Acto knife, and I put the hub in the middle, and that centers the pattern on the hole and on the hub. The kit asks you to use these smaller pieces of wood to build up the corners. But what I've decided to do is to use the masking tape to elevate it so that the hub will be able to sit down through the hole without a problem. Then what I'm going to use is a little piece of masking tape just to tape the pattern in place. And I'll do that on all four corners and it'll work fine, and then I'll have my jig ready to go. Now we have the wheel jig put together. The next step for us is going to be to take the wheel pieces, cut them out. I've been calling these the rims. They should actually be called the fellies. Each one of these individually marked areas is a felly. There would be individual pieces on the actual wheel. They're all one piece here, laser cut. What we want to do is to cut them out. This is the back, and you can see the laser burns. They're of no consequence. Some of the char where there's going to be glue needs to be taken off. But for example, you can see right here, it's a spot where there's been a little bit of wood left to hold it in the larger piece of wood. So what we're going to do is just cut through that. At the top, cut through that. Let's see if that'll come out yet. Not quite. You really don't want to break these out. You want to cut them out. When it's a straight line, we can use our chisel. That cuts very nicely. But on a curve, we need a thinner blade. That turns out to be this. There we go. Come down here. There we are. Now that's been cut out. We'll do the same thing on the inner side of the rim. We'll be dealing with our larger wheel here in just a minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it out. Well, we've managed to cut out the outer wheel. We're going to remove that now. And then we come over to our building jig, and we're going to place this wheel on the outer rim. But one of the things we need to do is make sure that the little lines that represent the joints of the fellies line up with the marks on the paper. The reason for that is that each felly needs to have 2 spokes in it. On a real wheel, each spoke would be mortised and tenon into the felly itself. They'd be assembled, and then the iron rim, called a tire, would hold it all together. On an actual wheel, this hub would have been mortised where the spokes are inserted, but for simplicity's sake, there's just a groove there. The spokes will fit in just fine. So, next thing we're going to do is to start to cut out all the spokes that need to be made. There's quite a few, and we'll just get started on that. Let me just illustrate something here. You'll notice that the ends of the wood, where it's been laser cut, is pretty badly charred. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not, the wood is not actually burned. It's just similar to smoke. You notice that on the wheel that I'm going to use, I've tried to sand off, both on the inside and the outside, some of that. You don't have to knock all of it off. Just sort of knock some of it off. Now here we have the spokes. As you can see, the spoke comes out a lot easier with this chisel blade. Of course, I'd be helped if I weren't doing it with one hand, but it'll come out something like that. And then just real quickly just knock a little bit of the char off. That's about all you need. You don't need to worry about it too much. So we've spent quite a bit of time making some spokes. They come out of the wood frame with these hard square edges. And then we just take our knife and we carve it to an oval shape. Here we have the rim on the jig. The spokes are installed by inserting them into the hub, working them into the hub, and then dropping them down, pulling them back out to meet the rim. You can see I've already done one. Has a small shim of wood at the end that centers the spoke on the felly. So all we need is 16 more spokes, and we have a wheel. We have all the spokes glued in. We've taken the clamps off. There we have the wheel. This is the second wheel that we've made, using exactly the same procedure as the first, but here you see it's still on the jig with the clamps in place. Now, if all goes right, yes, I did stab my thumb with the knife, but if all goes well, the wheel will simply come right out of the jig. And the answer is yes. There it is.